Let's give a warm welcome to our rabbis tonight. It's a privilege to have you both with us.
Okay, good everyone, into the cyber world out there.
Yeah.
Kia ora.
Oh, talofa.
And I just want to thank Beth Melekh and the team here who supported us when we went to Israel last October. And so today we're just going to give a little bit of a report. We can't tell you everything because we would like to be here for 2 years to tell you everything. But we'll just put a few images up here that I've put together, and we're going to speak to the images and what's happening, and out of that we'll tell you a bit of our journey. So I don't know how many of you have been to Israel or not. This was the first time for many of us that went to this place, to Jerusalem, which was pretty special. We had a team of 24 that went, and when we got to Israel to the conference that we were meant to be at, it enlarged to like 70. Okay, because there were other Kiwi people there. And so we had this team of us who are Maori, Pacific Island and Pākehā people that went, and but it was a Maori-led gathering that went to it. So this image is some of us that gathered in a conference that we were at there, and we took a photo of us in the foyer, and we all took our own feather cloaks and things like that to represent who we were as a nation. Although there's a guy there with a red turban on. Can you see the guy there? And we have no idea who he is. Everyone wants to jump in with the Kiwis and the Maoris, so we just let them come and be part of us. So we have no idea what his name is or anything like that. So it makes us all so very diverse though. I'm going to go back a little bit. So we were invited to go to a gathering there. It was an indigenous gathering that was actually called by, actually came into being based on a number of prophetic visions of a people going on canoes, or one big canoe, across the Pacific to Israel. But the added dimension to that was the idea that the glory of God would go with these people. And so, but it only had to occur with the Messianic leadership in Israel had to agree to it before we go there. There's a lot of things happening in Israel at the time. There are a lot of Christian multinational gatherings, and then you had the Anzac gatherings that were happening there at the same time. But this little gathering, none of us would go as indigenous nations unless the door was open by an invite of the people of the land. And so that invite basically did not come after 20 years of going to Israel to seek an invite. It did not happen until May 2017, and the gathering was in October. So May, June, July, August, September. We had 6 months to gather a team, to gather some money and to turn up there. So this image here is of our two mighty heroes here, Pastor Steve Campbell, who and his wife, and who managed this place, and Yaakov here, and they actually prayed our team out before we left. So it left from here to go to Israel from here. And we had a bit of a ceremony. We updated everyone what was happening, and we did a little ceremony here that we felt between Maori, Pākehā and Pacific Island as a group. We had to do some repentance and some reconciliation work amongst ourselves to unify before we could go anywhere. And so who's seen that film, The Orator? You need to watch that film, The Orator, and you would have seen a scenario there with these people under under a big whāriki mat. So can you see the guys there under the mat?
So the mat is what we call a ekunga. So it's a fine mat. It's a very it's probably for Samoans it's our taonga. It's our precious most precious gift. So to give a fine mat is a huge honour. But in this situation, the fine mat represents a covering, but it's basically where a transgression has happened. The transgressor would be under the fine mat. The fine mat can only be lifted off by the one who's been transgressed upon, but they don't have to do that. They don't have to take off the fine mat. So if a person was to go, all peoples would go before and ask for forgiveness, and the one that is to forgive chooses not to, they basically will stay there until they die, and they don't get any food, they don't get any drink at all. But in this situation, many of our Samoan that had come as part of our group wanted to come and ask for forgiveness for the way in which they've entered into this nation, what they've brought into the nation, the sin that they carried and the sin that they brought in. And so all of us who were Samoan came under the fine mat, and it was only for the tangata whenua to then lift that off. And so this was basically done.
The reason was because the government allowed these nations into our land and never asked the tangata whenua of the land. So our people have held a grudge against the Pacific peoples because they never came through the right gate. And so we felt, together was felt, hold on, we need to heal a rift before we can go to Israel and do anything. And so the elders, the Samoan elders, performed this ceremony where they actually asked us for forgiveness. And so here in this picture, us Māoris are lined up here going, well, should we forgive them? You know, and I asked, should we forgive them? 3 times. And the people said yes. And so they went and lifted the mat off to free them, so we could create some unity amongst us. If you're building a united team, you need to deal with all of those things. We had a great time, actually. I mean, most of our people that came have never seen that ceremony before, but we think that this is probably something that should be done on a grander scale, you know, between South Auckland and West Auckland, and North Shore and South Auckland. And have these peace festivals where, North Shore repents to South Auckland, and then South Auckland puts a big feast on for West Auckland. Things like this, and I think God is searching for these things, but, it's weird to go and be a model of something to the people that we were going to meet in Israel.
So this was really what we arrived into when we first came into Israel, Jerusalem. When we flew in, probably the most amazing thing when you're flying into Israel, and it was about probably between 6:30, 7:15 in the morning, was the sunlight that came through into our plane, which completely lit up the whole plane. Up until that point, we were in darkness. Then when we finally landed, drove basically from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, as we approached where we were staying, this was really our view out our window every day. Was seeing the old city, the valley of Kidron, and down, because we were basically up on the Mount of Olives. So in the morning, first thing in the morning, we could get up, have prayer in the morning, and look out our window to this amazing view. It was just every morning, every lunchtime, every meal time. Yeah.
So this is the Mount of Olives, I think. And you can't see it's a bit whitewashed, but you can see in the right-hand corner, there's a little steeple there, and our hotel is just next to it. So every night and every morning we'd hear this chanting, because this is an Arab area, and we were in the middle of an Arab neighbourhood, and we kind of fitted in a little bit like that. But we, as Selina said, that's right, we would look out straight across every morning to the city.
And that's
So we'd wake up in the morning to that image. Yeah. So we would meet every morning and we would pray for the peace of Jerusalem. And so we made the dining room into a prayer room, and we were in the middle of an Arab-run hotel, which was amazing. And so that's all our hands raised up, looking out over the city. And we went as our own people. We went, if we were Maori, then you go there as a Maori. We didn't go there to usurp any other's worldview or culture. We went as who we were. So we all had these. This is a poi, and we all had these pois, and we had them made a school down in the Bay of Plenty at a place called Te Teko. There's a little school, and they made all these pois for us. And in certain tribes around New Zealand, the poi were used for prayer. And they were not, the men and women used them, and they used them for prayer. So we took them, and every morning we would pray with our pois. And we would carry them all around Israel and twirl them and pray as we went. And people would go, "What is that?" Okay, it's a prayer poi. Okay, so there were things like that we took with us.
So this was really our we wanted to get out there and see Israel and Jerusalem, basically. So we had a bit of a rest after our flight, and then we decided to go out. But just to be able to be respectful of where we were, we also went out covered. And so our sister here, Rachel, she basically was able to help us with our scarves, because some of us weren't very good at wrapping a scarf around our head. But we went from this hotel, we could walk down to the Valley of Kings, and then from there we could walk up to where the old city is.
The old city there. It was very hot, and we could walk around over to the city. That's just another view. That's actually the view outside our hotel, straight across. And we first entered into the city at the Wailing Wall, and it was Feast of Sukkot, is it, or Feast of? It was holidays at the time. Yeah, and it was jam packed with people, and police with guns. We don't really see that over here. But it wasn't anything scary. We kind of felt pretty secure. As long as we didn't do anything wrong or anything, we'd be okay. But you could feel the tension everywhere as you walk around, and it was interesting just to be in that space.
Yeah, I suppose to go into the where the area was, and to go up to the Wailing Wall, it was quite amazing to see the just the reverence as people went up to put their prayers in the wall and really to pray. And for us, because we couldn't go together, so the men would go to one side and the women were to the other side. But I remember sitting there amongst seeing generations of women, just from children right up to the oldest women. And they were all there to pray, and they were all there to give their offering, and it was amazing just watching to watch the people, to see families. That was the thing that really impacted me a lot, was seeing families, seeing mum, dad, 10, 8, 6 kids. Families were huge over there. You don't really seem to see small families. It seemed to be very rare, and that was probably the most amazing thing for me, was just the life and the generations all going together. Yeah, it was amazing.
So this is just images of walking through the city in the different areas, the Arab area, the Armenian area. We wanted to get to the East Gate, where I think it's where Jesus entered into the city. So there's a picture there, me and Matt walking along there, and us in front of that gate. This is Matt Renata with the beard, and Matt lives in Wellington, him and his wife, and they have a lot to do with youth and social work in Wellington. And this other young woman here that was with us, Maki, she's from Japan. She was one of the only rep from Japan at this gathering, but she knew Jerusalem and Tel Aviv like the back of her hand. She'd been there 22 times and knows all the best food places in the Jewish and Arab areas, and so that's why we followed her around, and she knew how to get to this gate and we didn't, and we just followed her. So we just twirled our paws and prayed at this place, and the guard up the top pointed his gun at us and said, "You're standing on tombs, get out of the way." Well, so, and we were going, well, this, we just carried on with our poise and things, and it was a fascinating place. So, still being a Maori, we went over there, Hongi people, and, and people were trying to work us out, actually. They were trying to work out, who are these people? And some of us were tattooed and had dreads and all sorts of things, and they were trying to work us out. And this is in the Armenian Quarter. I haggled this guy to buy some jewellery, and they were haggling me to get the price up, and I was haggling him to get it down, and in the end we came to an arrangement, and I hongied him, and the rest of his family after that. So this is an image of the Gethsemane, but I'll get my wife to talk about, we didn't have a picture of Golgotha and that, and I didn't go there, but my wife and the others went to it, and she can share about that.
Yeah, so I suppose something that was on my heart before we went was I really wanted to go to where our Lord really died before he was laid in the tomb, and I remember it would have been our second day there. It was just before we had to go to the conference, and we were with some of our Samoan brothers and sisters, and they said, "Come with us, we're going to the Garden Tomb." But I didn't realise that actually the Golgotha, where our Lord was crucified, was actually adjacent to the Garden Tomb. So as we went in, and at one point I was a bit separated from the group, but we entered into the Garden Tomb, and the Garden Tomb really is probably the place where Joseph of Arimathea would have been. This would have been his home, but we had to walk through past within the garden, and as we came to there was like a pathway that led out away from the garden. We entered a viewing platform, but from the viewing platform you actually saw the rock face of Golgotha. But the land right up to the rock face is actually all Arab, all owned by Arab, and so there's big car park, buses and trucks are all parked up against it. But I suppose for me it was a very moving moment, and I really felt his presence there, but I also felt just the sacrifice that our Lord made for us was so huge. I suppose it really hit me at that point. And then I remember as I got up to the viewing platform, and it took me a while because it was just taking it all in, I suppose, and I looked across at the rock, but what also came into view was this dove just flew in and just sat in one of the crevices of the rock, and it was just a sense of his love for us, the love that surpasses all understanding. And then as we moved away from there and moved going towards the actual tomb, garden tomb, where he was basically laid to rest. There was this symphony of worship that just started coming out from every corner, and it was in different languages. There were so many walks of life that had come into there. There were people from all over the world, but everybody was worshipping. There was just this praise in this garden, which I could only say, I have a real sense that's what heaven's going to be like, because just the voices and the praise was just amazing. It was so amazing.
So this is in the street in a traffic jam. At the front of our hotel, we were waiting for a bus, and there was a traffic jam, and you'd have all of these teenage Arab Palestinian boys would hang around, and they all wanted to know who were we and what were we about, and our young ones, Tafuri and Matt, and the younger ones, had a real affinity to speak to them, and everyone was just drawn to our young ones, show them their tattoos and all these sorts of things, and so it was very interesting just sitting there and watching this traffic jam happening. That was madness, really. It was chaos. Although I'd have to say it was very amazing, because if that had happened here in Auckland, or we'd see it around, you'd definitely have road rage happening out in the street. But there, they actually controlled all that, and sitting in their car just bumped their horns. And it was very interesting. But it was interesting, the people there wanted to talk. The Arab women were keen to talk to us. We were conscious, especially as men, not to engage too much, but we couldn't engage because it's just a different language that we were speaking. But it was definitely a curiosity to reach them. So I think the best way is some of the people got Facebook, their Facebook addresses, because on Facebook you can put a translation. They can write in different languages, and you just press translation and it'll translate it. So a lot of our people were talking to the women on Facebook through translation. So it was pretty interesting.
Oh well, food. Wow. Colour, taste, everything about it was just, it blew my mind what they can do with vegetables. I've never seen anything like this. I remember coming back and going into the supermarket. I actually wanted to only go to the fruit and veg section, because that was the closest to being in Israel. Breakfast for us was hummus, tomatoes, cucumbers, olives, halwa. It was boiled eggs, which you had to be quick to get your boiled egg, or else you'd miss out. But just the flavours were amazing. And when we go to the markets, these are just a small part, but we went to the big market that's sort of out of the old city. But every market, every stand where there's food, they just present it in all its glory, and you just see foods you've never seen. And the colours you can see there. I think that's marshmallow, but it's like it's off the charts. It's just wow. So I've certainly come back just wanting to do vegetables and trying to eat a lot better.
You just want some meat though.
Oh, actually, our Samoan crew, they definitely felt like they lost a lot of weight when they were on there, so it was good.
So Masada is we're going on a bit of a tourist journey, so we went to Masada, which was a very amazing place, and I can't tell you all the history here, but we have a lot of places like this in New Zealand. We have fortified villages that were places of warfare and protection all around New Zealand in our culture. And this place here, Masada, is the same as a mountain that is down the east coast of Te Araroa. It's a place called Whetu Matarau, which is exactly the same story and exactly the same history, and it's still a big mountain that was where the people lived while they were under siege. And so all of us knew the story of Masada, because it had happened in our own lineage here in Aotearoa. So this is the next picture is us crammed into
a cable car. Basically, the cable car will take you from the visitor centre and straight up to the very top of the mount, because the trek up there would take probably a few hours, eh?
About 2.5, 3 hours.
Yeah, so yeah.
Yeah, some of us were going to
3
go
hours.
up there, but it was too hot, and then we tried to come down, and it was too hot, so we didn't.
You did the right thing.
Yeah.
So the next image is just some of the images. The bottom right-hand image, which you can see this black line that they've got on the wall, and the black line they said was anything under that line, below that line is the original. Anything above is new. So we just followed the black line around, and we had very amazing tour guides who were Jewish, that really knew their history, and the guy that was with us here, he was really impressed because we knew all about battle tactics, and we're a genealogy people, and so are they. So he'd start talking genealogy, and we go, oh yeah, we know what that means. We know this is what's going to happen. And he would end up asking us questions that we had answers for, because we kind of come from a people that would do exactly the same up there. And he was impressed, this guy Yari, because he'd never had any tourist group that could think the way we could answer the questions, because we think the same. He was really impressed that he invited me, or some of us, to his house for a barbecue at somewhere near Hebron, but in the end we never made it there. So I told him to come to New Zealand on Railside Ave and have a barbecue here when he comes over. So I'm just going to flick through these images. This is on top of one of the ramparts looking out over the desert. The next one is... what was amazed me was you could see the Roman camps where the Romans sat there and built their camps right around that mountain to lay siege to it for a period of years. It was pretty hardcore people living in this arena. Next one, this is on top of Masada, and I took this photo because the boulders in the back were some of the boulders that the Romans catapulted up the top, and the Jewish people up the top would throw them back down. But even to lift one of those things, you'd need like 10 people. So it was a fascinating place to be. You look at Mount Eden and all of the volcanic mountains around here, they're all forts. They were all places of living camps and citadels just like this. Yeah, out to the dead, looking out to the Dead Sea. And the next picture is Netanya.
So Netanya was, we had to go towards Tel Aviv, but then go to the coast. But we were in a small gathering, so this would have been Shabbat, so it would have been the Saturday, and we went and had Shabbat with the gathering, with this church, which is in Netanya. It's made up, I suppose the majority of the members there at the church are Russian Jew, but one of the pastors there is actually Kiwi and his wife. And they have been in ministry there in Netanya for 20 years. Yeah, just up to 25 years. So they've lived there and ministered to Arab and Jewish, and seeing many come to the Lord. So
this place is called Beit Asaf, and it's run by a couple called Evan and Marla Thomas. Anyone know Evan and Marla? And Evan they're a family from Whakatane, that's where I'm from, and he went to school with my mum at Whakatane High School. and him, my mum, and another couple of elders that were in our group that went to Israel, all went to school with them. And so he was amazed that people from that area of Whakatane would actually come to his messianic congregation in Israel. It was amazing to them. And so there was precious time because we felt we needed to get to meet the people of the land. And the next picture, and in the end, eight of our team got baptized by Evan and them in the Mediterranean Ocean. Actually, I think it was 9 actually. 9 of us. People felt they needed to be baptized there. Yeah, so you can see the coastline there. My mum actually decided she was going to jump in too, and Evan was amazed. He said it was a milestone in his life to have people from Whakatane come all the way there to be baptized in his ocean. Yeah, so that was an amazing time. There's my mother here on the left, and other two kuia here in the middle. That's Tangiwai.
And Tangiwai had actually given her heart to the Lord before we left for Israel, probably about a month out before we left for Israel. She just decided then, I give my heart to the Lord. So that was the desire for us to make sure she got baptized.
So most of the team that came with us were all over the age of 70. I would say 70% of them were all over the age of 70, and they were kaumātuas. And a lot of our team had actually been to Israel a number of times, but the kaumātuas, so we were a multi-generational team of people, and we had to go and serve our elders and carry them around, and that was an amazing time. So Hineawe is here in the purple, and Hineawe has been to Israel a number of times, and she's one of the oldest, in her 80s, comes from around at a place called Whakaangiangi, which is a pretty isolated place on your way to Ruatoria. So they came from the back blocks to come and go to Israel. This is Rosh Hanikra, and so this is, just thought I'd throw this in, this up north of Haifa, right on the border of Lebanon, and you can climb the hill and then you go down on a cable car to these waterways here, and at this place is special.
So the Anzacs basically built up and I think helped with the tunnelling. And
there was a train system that came here and it was bombed, and no one knew how to fix it. But the Kiwis, while they were there, they actually built up the sandbags. I don't know if you can see that picture good. You can see the sandbags all around under there. They built it up so they could put the train tracks through. So it was, and it's still got New Zealand on the rocks there that identify them as the Kiwis built this place. So this is the train. The train track came through here. So we did a haka in the train track, and everyone's going, "What is that?" People trying to take photos and, "Can you do it again?" No, we just do it once. And but just in support of our own people being there to build up these places. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about this gathering we went to. So that was, we went around, we ended up in Galilee, we went to the Dead Sea. We didn't go too far south because we had limited time, but we went to this place called Abu Ghosh, and here, so the top image there is from the top of the Catholic church that sits on the hill at Abu Ghosh, but its proper name is Kiryat Yerim, and that's where, does anyone know?
Yeah.
He knows.
The Ark.
That's where the Ark of the Covenant sat for a period of time until King David came and carried it to Jerusalem. So the top picture is sitting on the hill where the covenant, the Ark of the Covenant sat. There's a Catholic church there now. Seems to be a Catholic church everywhere, on every sacred site. And it's looking down over this place in Abu Ghosh where we were all meeting. And the bottom picture there is actually all of us. There are about, 1,500, 1,600 of us that met there. And they were from all around the world. And the name of this gathering was called Welcoming the King of Glory. And a number, I think they said about over 20 of the Messianic leaders of the communities in Israel came together in a unified form to welcome all these nations here. There was no agenda. No one actually knew what this meeting was going to look like. And I think God likes these. I think He likes these no agenda meetings. And I like no agenda meetings. I want to go to a meeting where God turns up and tells everyone, this is what I want to happen. Otherwise it becomes a ritual form. And so here, actually no one knew what was going to happen. All of the indigenous nations said, well, all we know is that you, the Messianic leaders, you are the tuakana, you are the eldest firstborn, and you need to lead us. None of us are going to talk. Actually, our own team, we said we would go in silence, and we would not talk unless we were asked to talk. We would not do anything unless we were invited to talk, because we're not the bosses there, we're only the visitors. And so in this gathering here, all of the Messianic leaders ran everything. It was the first time most of them had ever came together in one big group, and more people came to support them. And there was only the Messianic leaders that spoke. There was no other nation spoke at this gathering. Up the road was the big international Christian gathering that was happening, and there were a lot of nations there as well, but our groups only felt to go to this, not to any other meeting. There were enough people going to the other meetings. We just felt this was important to us. Next picture. So this is Tafuri and Matt. If you don't know Tafuri, he's the one in the black there. He's from Kaiwaka, lives up north. He's a real seer, where you've got mountains and rivers talk to him and tell him their history, so that then he has to repent of it. All right. He runs he's a leadership of a community church that is up in Kaiwaka, and we felt that we needed to bring these young ones with us so they could witness what God was doing in these nations. Tafuri's wife is a young Kiwi woman who has 3 Jewish grandparents. So she'd never been to Israel, and was an amazing journey for her to go back and connect back to where she's from. So this group here are the
Solomon, yeah, this is Solomon Islanders. So they were probably the biggest group from the Pacific. Actually, Solomon's, Vanuatu, New Caledonia, Papua New Guinea really came in numbers, huge. It was 200, 150, some of them went up to 300. We just were amazed. It wasn't until we got there to the conference that we could see the scale and the number that came, and just the sacrifice that they brought, because to get there for all of them, we believe they would have been saving for many years prior to coming. So it was huge.
So this is Jen. She went over there separately to serve at that conference, and so she's here with some of the guys from
I think Papua New
Guinea.
Yeah.
We were amazed at the worship there, because you had worship that was in Hebrew and also in Arabic. So you had a lot of youth there that were Arabic and Jewish worshipping together as one unit, And so then all of us just jumped in and went, man, that's pretty awesome. Because you only hear on the news the conflict between the peoples. But here you're seeing a unity that we don't see, really. It was a really amazing kind of sight for most of us to see, and actually was a representation of what this gathering was about. It was really about creating this one new man. So if you hear in Scripture, one new man, do you know this Scripture? In Ephesians, about Ephesians 2, that writes about creating one new man, Jew and Gentile as one. For a long time we've been working in Gentile kind of relationship, but actually we need to actually join together with Jew and Gentile together. So that was a big thing at this gathering. This next picture, the biggest thing that the Messianic leaders actually were amazed at is they did not know what honor meant until all of our nations came and honored them. We gave them gifts, we sang to them, we honored them in a way they'd never actually witnessed ever before. And that's not me saying it, that's what the people were saying. It kind of frightened them a bit because they'd never seen, they've been suspicious because every nation, they say they're going to be their friend and then they're going to destroy them. But this was a little bit different. We came on totally bended knees before the Messianic people, and they had never seen that before, actually. And I'll read something as part of the report. So here we are, the people said, we had a protocol time where each nation came and presented themselves in a traditional way and then gave them gifts. Our New Zealand team, I think it's on Facebook, you can see our team went with our poi and we presented them with gifts and sang a number of numbers and did our bit to honour the firstborn people. This next image is a picture of all the Messianic leaders that were there. And they actually got down and repented to all of our nations. They got up and they said, we have never received honour like you people have honoured us, but we must repent. So the whole lot of them went through a repentance that they had not stood up since the book of Acts as the elder brother to protect and usher the rest of the nations to themselves. Okay, and that's a pretty rare, I would have thought it was a pretty rare thing to hear and see, is that they felt that they needed to repent, that they had not truly engaged with the Gentile nations, especially this far away, enough to draw us to their land. And so that was a pretty amazing thing to see. One of the other things that was spoken out there is that they believed, and it's not my words again, they believed that revival is moving amongst the Arab peoples and the Palestinian peoples in a big way, and that they believed that was to force jealousy amongst the Jewish people in Israel when this move starts to arise. And we witnessed part of that, what was going on there, where this move is happening, but in this special way. So, next image is just some of our team. We had a lot of Samoan people from Samoa came there from the islands, but most of them are also Kiwis. So they all ended up in our group. So we taught them a quick haka in the foyer. And so at the end here, look, I just want to read this. So this is actually part of a letter that was sent from one of the Messianic statesmen there, Benjamin Berger. And this is what he wrote about that gathering and I just would like to read it. And he says, "Yes, I was very, very thankful for our meetings in Abu Ghosh and finally in Jerusalem, because the last day of this gathering, they had to leave Abu Ghosh and they went into Jerusalem. Concerning the firstborn, this was the first time in the history of the Messianic movement that we were honoured by brothers and sisters from the nations who stated and confirmed that we are the firstborn. By doing what you did, something really happened in the heavenlies. We were finally given our God-given place in the land of Israel, where God has planted us. This has never happened before. We are full of thanksgiving to the Lord and to you by the way in which you honoured us, and that so many brothers and sisters came to be with us in the land of Israel. You came from the ends of the earth, and you were the first ones who understood that it was necessary to confirm and to even secretly ordain and even in the Spirit to anoint us as being God's firstborn, to whom you have been joined. It was a true manifestation of the new one man, or the one new man. Though this term has been used many times by believers, it has in fact never been proclaimed and realized in this way and demonstrated in this way. So I think it is fair to say that the one new man was actually born at this conference. It was also the first time that Messianic leaders could work together in a team the way we did at this gathering. It was like the Magi, that's the wise men that came bearing gifts, that came to the Christ child with gifts, recognizing and proclaiming that the Messiah was born. Heaven has given us our God-given place and place of authority in the land of Israel and in the body of Messiah. I have always felt that God has something very special concerning our ministering and establishing friendships with the brothers and sisters at the ends of the earth." Benjamin Berger, 30 October 2017. So, just for that report alone, it was worth going there. We don't really know what to expect out of that, except I feel we will create, there's going to be a lot of relationship building between the Pacific nations, between Aotearoa and Israel. And it's already happening with a lot of talks at Maori tribal level to establish embassies in Jerusalem. We were there, and so we were in an Arab hotel in Jerusalem running a kava ceremony. Who knows what a kava ceremony is? It's a ceremony in Samoa, different nations of the Pacific Rim, and we drink. They ran a kava ceremony to give a title to one of the former ambassadors to New Zealand, Israeli ambassadors to New Zealand. And he was the one who instituted the idea that New Zealand have free visas to Israel. So he was there, and the Pacific, we all gathered to perform a kava ceremony to give him a title, a Samoan title.
Because the reason for that was he is now going to be working with Samoa in terms of building more relationship through trade, through resourcing, through support. So as an honour for this, we actually had Taito Philip Field, who used to be a former Labour Minister. So he was able to, I suppose, arrange and organise this and really to pay homage to a man who's had a huge impact for New Zealand and Israel. He's got a great heart for Pacific. So he's going to continue to work in ways of enabling Samoa now to build more relationship with Israel.
So in that ceremony, we ended up starting having a lot of conversation see, Maori we are part of a bigger Pacific Polynesian family, and we felt that we should align with our brothers and sisters in the Pacific to help create a place where we can go as a Pacific nations to Jerusalem. So there are discussions about building. I don't know if you want to call it an embassy, but our own marae, for a term, in Jerusalem, that becomes a gateway for us to go and create relationship. So these are all the things that are happening. A number of these conversations are going on amongst our peoples right now at the moment, and I believe that God is kind of pushing this to create that relationship. So I think that's kind of all I wanted to share tonight. It's just the idea that God is creating this one new man between us all. There's a lot of reconciliation going on between Maori and Pākehā at the moment, but actually the bigger picture is between the Jewish people and the Gentiles, nations. And so this is something that is growing a lot at this moment. So we want to bless you all. It's just a little bit of a story that we had, and there is a few articles about this that have been put out, but we're not sure if they're going to have another one, because the leaders felt we just didn't want to have another conference every year and it just looks the same. Rather, God calls it, and it's God's agenda what happens. So we just sit and wait. So, kia ora tātou.